Hello and good morning, friends. Welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, we would like to tell you all that in today's session, we would be talking on social entrepreneurship, and for this very discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Mr. Yogesh Kumar. Mr. Yogesh Kumar has done his master's in the specific field, and he's carrying his own venture, which is working for women empowerment as well as logistics. So we would like to welcome our guest, Mr. Yogesh Kumar, once again, and let's try to know what social entrepreneurship is. Hello, Mr. Yogesh Kumar. Welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So we would like to know in detail what specifically social entrepreneurship is. So over to you.
So I would conduct this session. I would just go through the basics of what social entrepreneurship is, how it originated, and what are the different understanding of different academician is about the subject and about the domain.
So over to you. So let's have the session on the topic.
Yeah, thank you. So good morning, friends. Let us start with social entrepreneurship. What social entrepreneurship actually is. There are a few questions that always comes to mind whenever somebody thinks about social entrepreneurship. It is a new domain. So people are still studying, still discovering, still writing new definition about it. So the most important question that one should not ask is what is entrepreneurship? But instead we should ask, why do we need to know about entrepreneurship? What is there that we need to know about entrepreneurship? So you may have different reason, you may have different understanding about entrepreneurship. What you can do is that you can start by your interest, like what interests you the most. What is your motivation to learn about entrepreneurship? One can be that you are a budding entrepreneur. You might want to start your venture at some point in time. You would want to know what entrepreneurship is all about. Like people who have already started their venture, how did they go about it? You would want to explore the domain of entrepreneurship as such. The second motivation could be that you want to be an informed entrepreneur. So if you have already started your venture, so the major discussion that goes around entrepreneurship nowadays is that majority of people think that it is something that needs to be practiced and not to be studied. Because if I am running a venture, I'm just running it. I don't need to know like why it started, when it started. But take an example of a cricketer. I mean, would you like Sachin Tendulkar if Sachin Tendulkar would not be able to answer when cricket originated? Like with all other countries who started cricket as a game, everybody who is into a particular field would always want to know about the origin of it, how it started and how it evolved over the period of time. So another thing is best practices. We nowadays live in an age of technology. We are connected. Across the globe, we share best practices. Something that an entrepreneur is carrying out or practicing, say in Europe or in Australia or in America, can be replicated in India. One good model is the taxi aggregator business that has started. It started in US and then one of the organization has taken up in India, similar to the e-commerce industry. Similar thing started in United States, and the same has been taken by one of the Indian companies, and now it's a big organization. So it's like sharing the best practices as well, what they feel is right, how they are solving their problem, how they are addressing their problem, exploring different opportunities. So that is another thing that might motivate you to understand social entrepreneurship as a domain. Another thing is tools and techniques. So we as an entrepreneur should always look to learn. We should be inquisitive. What are the new techniques, new tools that I can use in my organization to yield better results, to yield better productivity? All these things should be, absorbed, taken, and practiced. Now we would. I know it's a bit theoretical part, but yes, let us first understand what entrepreneurship is, how it originated initially. So in a common parlance, being an entrepreneur is associated with starting a business. So our common understanding of entrepreneurship is that you start a business, we call you an entrepreneur. If you are thinking of starting a business, we say that you are a budding entrepreneur. But entrepreneur is just not about starting a business. It's much more than that. The meaning has a lot more meaning. The meaning has a lot more sense than just starting a business. So talking about the origin of it, The term entrepreneur originated in the French economics as early as 17th and 18th century. So, in French, it means someone who undertakes. Someone who, not the undertaker, but someone who takes the responsibility to start something, to initiate something. It is used to identify the venturesome individuals who stimulated economic progress by finding new and better ways of doing things. Now, there have been different theories which have arisen over the period of time. Let us start from what Jean-Baptiste had to say in 19th century, when he was the one during the 19th century who has talked more about entrepreneurship. Very well-known economist. So he says, the entrepreneur shifts economic resources out of an area of lower and into an area of higher productivity and greater yield. What do we mean by shifting the economic resources? See, we have limited resources that we all understand, isn't it? What we can do is that we can optimally use all those resources to yield better efficiency and better results. That's what Say had to say. Say had to say, isn't it funny? Yeah. So the entrepreneur shifts economic resources out of area of lower and into area of higher productivity. This means that the same resources which were yielding, say, X, the outcome of those resources was X, now it is X plus 2, because the economic resources have been shifted from lower productivity area to the higher productivity area. Another very important term that was coined during the 20th century by Joseph Schumpeter was creative destruction. So entrepreneurs are generally known to disrupt things, not in a negative manner, but in a positive manner. Like with the business of taxi aggregator coming, though we have lost on the usual taxi stands, but it has made our life much more convenient, isn't it? Like on a click, you can book a taxi now. So all those things we call is creative destruction. So it's creative and it is disrupting the market. So that's why Schumpeter called it creative disruption. So Schumpeter also had an understanding of entrepreneurship, which is he feels that the function of entrepreneur is to reform or revolutionize the pattern of production. So he specifically emphasizes that the entrepreneur identifies the pattern of production, reforms it, and revolutionizes it. So you understand, you connect the dots, and then you feel where the maximum impact can happen if you make certain changes in the entire system. Peter Drucker is one of the very well-known academician who has talked a lot on entrepreneurship. And Peter Drucker says that the entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. Peter Drucker emphasizes on the word opportunity. He feels that an entrepreneur always has that skill to identify that opportunity. So opportunity is very important here. We will know more about opportunity during the later part of the session. So now we say, is it just about starting something? I mean, when we talk about entrepreneurship, is it just about starting something, or does it mean more than that? Starting a business is neither necessary nor sufficient for entrepreneurship. So we say that just because you have started a business, we cannot call you an entrepreneur. Suppose if you have a family business where you are running 10 restaurants and now you have opened 2 more restaurants, would that be called an entrepreneurship? Is there any shift that has happened? Is there anything innovative about it? Is there anything that we can call entrepreneurial? So just starting a business cannot be called as entrepreneurship. Starting a business is not the essence of entrepreneurship. So if you have just started a business and you feel that it's entrepreneurship, so the definition of entrepreneurship doesn't confine itself to just starting a business. Now, Howard Stevenson says, the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resource currently controlled. Suppose if you are running an organization and you are expanding at different places, scaling to different places, and you have very limited resources. The entrepreneur would always use the limited resource that he has to generate better results. What Say used to say, what Schumpeter said, all these things. So what they say is that the resources may be scarce, the resources may be less, but an entrepreneur knows how to leverage all those resources. He or she doesn't solely depend on the availability of the resources. He creates resources. She creates resources. That's why we call them entrepreneurs. Again, Peter Drucker also says that not every new small business is entrepreneurial or represents entrepreneurship. Like I have explained to you that just opening one more, say restaurant or one more shop, would that be called entrepreneurial? Peter Drucker doesn't feel so. Peter Drucker feels that just starting one more thing would give you that luxury of being called an entrepreneur. Another important question that we need to ask here is not who is an entrepreneur. Do they possess special skill? This is like one of the most talked after or talked about thing in the entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship domain. People say that entrepreneurs possess special traits, or they feel that entrepreneurs have special traits. When science was there in its initial days, when science was evolving, many people used to say that scientists or people who know science have some special power. There is something that is inherited. So it's not something that you can gain, that you can learn, the skill. They don't used to believe that. They used to feel that science is something that is very natural to a person. So if science comes to you, it comes to you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You cannot learn that. Similarly, many people feel that entrepreneurship or being an entrepreneur is a very special trait. It happens. So this probably is not the right question to ask here. Rather, the right question to be asked is, what do entrepreneurs do? Entrepreneur, person or a group of individuals innovates, develops something new, like we were talking about. There are many examples in India as well, where people have worked in the rural areas of Maharashtra to Chhattisgarh to Jammu and Kashmir, where they have made very, very impactful changes, so to speak, in the life of many people. I'm talking about the social part of it. We can also take the example of entrepreneurial part, how our life has become easy because a lot of innovation happens. So what is the difference between invention and innovation here? Do we understand the difference between invention and an innovation? So an invention is when you discover something new. Innovation is when you discover the way of doing the same thing in a new manner. Isn't it? So invention is, again to repeat, is discovering something new that was not existent before. On the other hand, innovation is doing the same thing in a manner which hasn't been done before. So just to give you an example, steering would be called an invention, the car steering, and the power steering would maybe called an innovation, because nobody has thought before about it. Like you can just shift your hand very smoothly and the car would turn. So all this is the difference between invention and innovation. So an entrepreneur always looks for innovation. The current way of doing things doesn't appeal that much to an entrepreneur. He always looks for doing the same way in a new manner, with a new idea, with a new approach. The second part is he takes initiative. So entrepreneurs always takes initiative. He doesn't wait anyone, he or she doesn't wait for anyone to take that initiative and then join. If he or she feels that something needs to be done, he or she would start that. An entrepreneur arranges resources through social and economic methods. So not everyone is blessed, not everyone has all the resources to start an organization or to start something that he feels is relevant. So the financial resources might be constrained, might be less, might be scarce. He might not have enough money to start that organization. That might happen, and it does happen with many entrepreneurs. But he or she have access to social and economic methods. We are not talking about social capital here in this session, but social capital is one of the important sessions in social entrepreneurship, wherein you know and you understand how to leverage social capital, how you can gain from the people that you know, how people would help you to scale your venture, to start your venture. Another aspect is that social capital doesn't need you to have financial things or financial well-being or financial resources in possession. A person who might not have many financial or much financial resources might have a very good social capital, isn't it? The another thing is that an entrepreneur would convert these resources into some outcome. So value is very important here. So we talk about creation of value. How do you use these resources into an outcome to create value? Another thing that differentiates an entrepreneur from other people is that entrepreneur accepts the risk and failures. So there is always a risk when you are starting something which hasn't done before. I mean, you don't have a set formula to be successful in entrepreneurship, because probably the thing that you are starting might not have been tried by anyone else before. So you might feel that this is an unknown territory. I don't know where I'm heading, but I know what I want out of it. So there would be risk and there would be failures. So risk and failures are part of entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship. So what is entrepreneurship? So we would say that process of creating something new involves creativity and innovation and continuity. So creating something new doesn't only stops at being creative. You are creative, you have thought of something which you feel is revolutionary. You have come across something, you have come with an idea which you feel is very impactful, very life-changing for people, very disruptive in the sense. But is it innovative? You have to ask yourself whether the idea that you have come up is innovative or not. And does it have that part we called continuity? Can it be continued? Something that you start and you stop might not give you the value that you are seeking out of it. So you have to make sure that it involves creativity, it involves innovation, and it also includes continuity. Another thing or part of entrepreneurship, rather process of entrepreneurship, is arranging resources. How you arrange resources is very important. So when you are starting something, you would know, what traits you have, what connections do you have, what network do you have, what skills do you have. So arranging resources is one of the most important things, because you would want to start something in a field which you know about, or which you want to know about, not something that is very unknown or something that you haven't heard of before and now you're getting into something without, So we say that entrepreneurs are not risk takers. Entrepreneurs are risk managers. They manage risk very well. And how would you manage your risk? You would manage your risk if, say, you can mark your resources. Like, these are my resources. This is how I'm going to go about it, and this is the value that I'm seeking. So you connect these dots and then you go about it. Another thing is creating organization. So organization here, specifically in this slide, you can see profit making, not profit making, or not for profit making. It can be any of these, and it can also be a hybrid model. There can be a different session on the legal structure of organization in entrepreneurship. Profit-making firms are largely, I'll just touch upon it, I'll not go into the details of it. So creating an organization can be a profit-making as in private limited, all those proprietorship, all those organizations, limited liability, partnership, all those organizations can be called as profit-making organization, which in a legal structure is considered as profit-making. Non-profit-making means that an organization is there, it is operating, it is generating profit, but it is again reinvesting its profit into the organization. It is the Section 8 that we call non-profit organization. These are the Section 8 companies called the non-profit companies. So you generate revenue like any other private organization, but then you would not use that revenue or take that revenue out of the organization. You would again reinvest the whole revenue into the organization. And not-for-profit making organization are those which do not have mandate to make profit. So the registration largely include that of society and trusts. So you can register a non-profit under society registration or a trust registration. These are two different type of registration that people get their organization registered in or registered with. But largely these organizations which are not for profit, the organizations which we generally call NGOs, non-government organizations, One thing is that they don't generate profit out of it. There are certain section which or the field which cannot yield profit to you. Suppose if you are in the business of educating poor kids who don't have any financial resources to pay you back, how would you do that? Probably it will be more of a philanthropic model, the one that not-for-profit organization operates with. The last part is acceptance of the risk and uncertainties. After failure, what next? So like I was saying that entrepreneurs are not risk takers, they are risk managers. They manage risk pretty well and they take into account the uncertainties that can come. So if you are a good manager, you would know what all uncertainties can arise. Okay, we would also understand the concept of affordable loss later in the session. So how much is the loss that is affordable to you? Okay, how much can you afford? The loss that you can afford. After failure, what next? So suppose if you have a plan A with these many risks, these many uncertainty, and if everything goes wrong, do you have a plan B? That's what entrepreneurs do. They do minimize and mitigate risk as much as possible. So there is another thing that we need to understand is that there is difference between an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. So being entrepreneurial is totally a different thing. Entrepreneurial is a mindset, is a thinking. Are you entrepreneurial? So there are two dimensions that can be given while approaching different domains. One is that you have entrepreneurial approach. Another one is that you have managerial approach. Now I will differentiate between what entrepreneurial approach is and what managerial approach is. So strategic orientation. What is the strategy for the organization? It is driven by perception of opportunity for entrepreneurial domain. So entrepreneur would always look for the opportunity part and the perception of it. Managerial domain, like people who are managers, derive by the resource currently controlled. So a manager would always say that I have these many resources and I can do this much with the resources that I have. So the resources that you currently control is your scope of work for a manager, but is not the same case with an entrepreneur. Commitment to opportunity. So an entrepreneur is revolutionary with a short duration. So he feels that something disruptive needs to come out, something that hasn't been done before. But on the other hand, managerial domain are very evolutionary with a long duration. So they believe in evolution per se. Like by evolution we mean that you learned something about a particular domain today and you have gradually worked on that thing over a period of year or maybe 2 years or a decade, and then you have come to something that is again new. So you are evolving. Okay, you are not revolutionizing. So it's a very gradual process. For managers, it's evolving, not revolutionizing. Again, the commitment to resources. So for an entrepreneur, multi-staged with minimal exposure at each stage. So an entrepreneur, suppose who is starting a career in media, might not know much about media. He would learn with time. He would learn everything at certain stage. He would not have all the resources, all the knowledge before starting something, isn't it? But on the other hand, the managerial approach would be that single stage with complete commitment upon decision. So it will be like someone who has started something and you are dedicating yourself and committing yourself to that particular stage and not the whole process of it. The next one is control of resources. Episodic use or rent of required resources. So you might not, like I told you that entrepreneur might not need all the resources, might not have all the resources to start with. He may accumulate the resources with a period of time. But on the other hand, in the managerial domain and the managerial way of thinking, ownership or employment of required resources. So any organization would always want to have all the resources before starting something. You would tell a manager that you have X, Y, Z resources to do this job. But an entrepreneur would look for X resource, do it, look for Y resource, do it, and as and when required, look for Z resource. He won't wait for all the resources to get accumulated before starting something. The last one is management structure. So the management structure is very flat with multiple informal networks. So So with entrepreneurs, what happens is that there isn't much of a hierarchy in terms of resources, in terms of people, in terms of organizations. On the other hand, in managerial domain, it has a very formalized hierarchy model. Like you have to do this at this point in time in this way. So what you call is SOP, standard operating procedure. You follow that, and to an extent it gives you the stability, but then it takes away the scope of innovation. So we would conclude this session here, and we would take it forward in the next session. Welcome. So the current understanding that we have developed about entrepreneurship and what entrepreneurship approaches are, what concepts and theories are, keeping all that into account, now we will try to understand and put it into perspective. So let us understand what entrepreneurship is. Like taking different perspective into understanding, isn't it? Like we have talked about the 19th century, 20th century, what entrepreneurs are, how entrepreneurs think. Now how can we define entrepreneurship as a domain? Till now we have only been talking about entrepreneurs. Now let's talk more about entrepreneurship based on the previous discussion that we had. So we can say that entrepreneurship is a way of thinking, reasoning and acting that is opportunity obsessed, holistic in approach and leadership balanced. This definition comes from the Babson College and Harvard Business School. So it basically says that entrepreneurship is just not about starting a business. It's more about the thinking. It's more about the entrepreneurial approach. It's more about acting on the opportunity. So it's not that most of us don't come across opportunities or the ideas doesn't come to us. We all have brains, we all have understanding, we all have perception, we all have different way of looking at things. So ideas do come. We do sense opportunity, we do identify opportunity, but then do we act upon it? That's where an entrepreneur differentiate himself or herself from others, because he identifies the opportunity and approach it in the holistic manner. Entrepreneurship results in creation, enhancement, realization and renewal values, not only for owners but for all participants and stakeholders. So entrepreneurship is just not about creating profit or making profit. It's about taking everyone along with you. It's about identifying your stakeholders. It's about, so there are two sort of approach that we can largely talk about. One is shareholder approach, another one is stakeholder approach. Shareholder approach is that you think about or worry about the shareholders that you have in your organization. Stakeholder is that you identify different stakeholders. Stakeholders might not be people who have invested in your company or who have any stake in your company, but can be people who decides the outcome of your company. Maybe your customers are your biggest stakeholders. Who knows? They are not investing in your company directly, but then they are your stakeholders. People who are talking about you are stakeholders. The society at large can also be a stakeholder. Because you never know, you are getting into an unknown territory, you don't know whether you will succeed it or not, but if you can take or maintain, come up with some of the measures that you can think of by which you can engage with society, it will be great, isn't it? You are seeing society as a stakeholder and now you are taking care of it, rather than just taking care of the shareholders, the people who have invested in your organization. So the stakeholder theory has largely been appreciated and has really been implemented by many of the organizations nowadays. So we can say that entrepreneurship is beyond starting a new venture, include all type and at all stage of organization. So organization need not be a startup or need not be a running or not performing organization. It can include all of it. It should not be confined to just startups. So you can implement entrepreneurial mindset. You can implement entrepreneurial techniques, tools when you are running an organization. Even when your organization, say a 10-year-old organization, now you want to rebrand your organization or do something new with it. Many organizations have done that over the period of time. It is rarely a get-rich-quick proposition. So nowadays, many of people who think about getting into entrepreneurship is that they would want to get rich fast. They feel that this is one good option that can give you quick money. You start an organization, you might want to, sell it after some point in time, you would want to make good money out of it. So that is not entrepreneurial. You don't think about money as a sole proposition behind starting an organization. So that should not be the only motivation, I would say, behind starting an organization. And it is a continuous renewal. So you learn, you act. So like the approach that management has, PDCA, plan, do, check, act. This is a continuous process that keeps on happening when you are into entrepreneurship domain. Entrepreneurship is a lot about dealing with paradoxes. So when we say paradoxes, we mean that it is about finding opportunity with low opportunity, isn't it? I'm saying that find an opportunity within a low opportunity. Where there is no opportunity, you are finding an opportunity. This is the paradox that entrepreneurship deals with. Opportunity discovery, creation and identification are three parts. So we can talk about it when we study opportunity specifically, but I'll just touch upon these topics. So opportunity discovery is that you have discovered something new, that there is an opportunity which has never seen by anyone, and I have found that, which is already existent. So that opportunity has always been there, it's just that nobody has identified that opportunity. Then there is opportunity creation, where you create an opportunity, you don't identify it. And then there is opportunity identification. Opportunity identification organizations are largely the one which follow a model which has already been done by someone else at some place in time. So if a pen manufacturing organization feels that we should also, we got into this business because we have seen someone doing the same thing, making money, scaling and all those things, then it is called opportunity identification. Opportunity creation is when you create an opportunity where there is no opportunity. Okay, so like the organizations which are looking to start maybe space travel is something that they are creating. Opportunity discovery, we may say that a taxi aggregator or a restaurant aggregator or maybe a tourist place aggregator would be called a opportunity discovery, because they have discovered that if I can get all those people on one platform and I can get all the customers on one platform and can make them interact, I can generate a business out of it. So they have largely in the opportunity, they have largely acted in the opportunity discovery space. Another paradox that exists is money making by money losing. So you make money and you lose money. This is the another paradox that you deal with. It's not that you'll start making money from the day one. It's not that you'll start losing money from, you might not lose money when you are 10 years into the operation. So the possibility of either of it happening is there. So you make money, you lose money. These are the paradoxes that we are talking about in entrepreneurship. Success through failures. So it's not that, the percentage of ventures that succeeds is very less. So it's like 10%. 10% is a very, very optimistic and good number, I'm telling you. 5%, 6% is more than the average that happens. So failure is a part of it. You have to understand that. But the best part is, can you learn from failures of others? Can you implement the learnings that those people have into your own organization, into your own venture, and can make it a successful one? That is another thing that we can ponder upon. Planning versus remain alert for unplanned event. Everyone plans. We do plan, you plan, everyone plans. An entrepreneur also plans. But then there is always a probability of happening events which have not been planned by the entrepreneur or the organization. So it's like planning versus unplanning. Planned, unplanned debate. It keeps on going. Like you always have to keep in mind that there will be things that there will be things that happen that you haven't already planned for. That things that just come up. You may call it challenges, you may call it problem, but these are the unplanned events that happens. So one good thing is that recently, the change in the monetary policy that our government did. That was an unplanned event for many of the organizations. For some, it was a great opportunity to grow, to scale. It has given them the height and the growth and the month-on-month, year-on-year growth in hundreds of percentage. So they have grown exponentially over the past 3-4 months. And there are organizations which suffered because of it. So it's like both of it. So the opportunity, the event might act in your favor and might not act in your favor. So it might go your way, it might not go your way. So it's about the planning part that should be there. Okay. Another thing is creativity for discipline. So whenever we say creativity, we feel that there is something casual about it. There is something that is not set, that doesn't have a norm, that doesn't have a law, that doesn't have to abide by a certain process. When we talk about creativity, you are creating something new. But then, while in entrepreneurship, you have to do it in discipline. Isn't it a paradox? Creativity and discipline. So these are the paradox that we deal with. When we talk about creativity, we talk about creating something new. But at the same time, since we are running an organization, we have started an organization, we have to do it in a manner where we feel that it can be done in a way which can benefit the organization or can help us attain the value. Another paradox is sense of urgency with patience and perseverance. So you are always urgent. You always feel very restless that you need to do something. You need to get that customer. You need to deliver this thing. You need to come up with application or website or whatever your business requires as soon as possible. So there is a sense of urgency. But then you also have to be patient. You also have to practice perseverance. So these are the paradoxes that we talk about in entrepreneurship. And it is very important. Apart from the tools and techniques thing that we talk about, the mindset is very important because that makes you an entrepreneur. It might not be that tangible, but then this is what makes difference. This is what differentiates a successful entrepreneur from an entrepreneur who could not succeed. Creative destruction is another part, and we have already talked about creative destruction. I have also discussed about examples of creative destruction. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about not just creating an organization, but creating a mindset, creating a thinking, creating a way of doing things, of going about things. Now we have talked about entrepreneurship. Now what does social mean in it? What is the difference between, say, a social entrepreneurship and a commercial entrepreneurship? Or is there any difference or not? I mean, does a difference exist or not? Or are we just, talking about social entrepreneurship and commercial entrepreneurship in isolation just because these are two different terms? Let's understand that. Social entrepreneurs play the role of change agents in the social sector. So what social entrepreneurs do is they adopt a mission to create and sustain social value, not just private value. This is a very important point. So when you start start organization, you have a mission. You feel that you have certain value. You want to get that value. You want to attain that value. And in case of social entrepreneurs, it's about creating the social value. So suppose an organization, I'll give you a very good example here to give you better understanding of the concept of social entrepreneurship. A commercial entrepreneurship may be an organization which arranges tours and travels and trips, holidays. You can call this organization a commercial organization which is started by an entrepreneur. So we'll say this is a commercial entrepreneurial venture. Okay. Now, there is another organization which has started something on the same lines. So this organization also provides tour, packages, holidays, but this organization solely provides it for people with disability. It has a mission. It has a value. It wants to cater to the section of the society which has been left behind. Cater to the society which commercial organization might not want to cater to, because there is a different proposition. So this is the social proposition that we are talking about. Another thing is, a social entrepreneur recognize and relentlessly pursue new opportunities to serve that mission. It is on the same line as that of commercial entrepreneurs, that they have a private value proposition. Social entrepreneur would have a social value proposition. The only thing that would differentiate the two would be that value in case of social entrepreneurship will be social, and in case of commercial entrepreneurship would be private. Another thing that social entrepreneurship encompasses or talks about is engaging in a process of continuous innovation, adaptation and learning, which I feel again is on the same line that of commercial entrepreneurship. They engage the process of continuous innovation, adaptation and learning. Next is acting boldly without being limited by resources currently in hand. So you act boldly. You don't think about the resources that you have in hand right now. You think about the resources that you can generate. You think about the value that you can generate. Social entrepreneurship exhibits and highlight accountability to the constituencies served and for the outcomes created. So a commercial, this is the another major point that differentiates a commercial organization, commercial entrepreneurial venture from a social entrepreneurial venture. A commercial entrepreneurial venture would think about the shareholders, would think about the people who are associated with the organization. A commercial entrepreneur or organization would not think about the social value, would not think about the constituency. But a social organization has a social value. It has a mission. So the responsibility and the accountability goes beyond the shareholders, goes beyond the people who are working for the organization. If a social organization is working in a rural area, providing sanitation facilities to that community, the responsibility and accountability of that organization doesn't limit to the people who are associated with that organization or people who are getting profit or investing in that organization, but it goes beyond that. It goes to the people whom they are serving. You may call them beneficiaries, but yes, those are the people who really creates the social part in the entire process. So you are not just accountable to your own organization or sphere, you are accountable to the larger audience as well. Now talking about the social entrepreneur. Social entrepreneur, we say, are the change agents in the social sector. So we say that they create change in the social sector. They think about the pressing issues that our society faces. They talk about the issues that generally isn't being talked about. Or even if people are talking about it, they are not doing something about it. A social entrepreneur adopts a mission to create and sustain social value. Social value is of utmost importance here. Social value is something that differentiates a social entrepreneur from a commercial entrepreneur. A social entrepreneur recognizes and relentlessly pursues new opportunity. So this is like the same thing that we have discussed, apart from the point that a social entrepreneur would always adopt a mission to create and sustain social value. This is of major importance. Let's move on to the next slide here. So how would you map the entrepreneurial skill and competency? So we talked about the difference between a manager and an entrepreneur. And now here we see how an entrepreneur is different from a manager. On the y-axis, you can see the creativity and innovation. On the x-axis, you can see general management skills, business knowledge and network. And it from low to high, and from low to high it scales on the x-axis as well as the y-axis. Now, a promoter is someone who is low on creativity and innovation. You can see promoter in the first quadrant. Okay, in the first quadrant, it isn't the first quadrant. It is first, second, third, fourth. In the fourth quadrant, in the third quadrant, you can see promoter. Promoter is someone who has low value on creativity and innovation. Promoter is someone who doesn't possess managerial skill, business knowledge and network. A promoter just invests. So he doesn't know much about creativity, innovation or managerial skills for that matter. But if we go high on creativity and innovation, we will meet inventor. People who invent. People who come up with new things. People who have come up with bulbs. People who have come up with new scientific devices. So they are very high on creativity and innovation. They create new things. They innovate new things. So those people are called inventors. Okay? And if we see on the x-axis, the first quadrant again would be that of a promoter. But if we go high on general management skills, business knowledge and networks, we will meet manager. So manager is someone who is not brilliant at creativity and innovation, but is good at general management skills, is good at business knowledge and is good at networking. Okay, so we have covered promoter, inventor and manager. An entrepreneur is someone who is high on creativity and innovation, who is high on managerial skills, management skills and networks. So an entrepreneur would need all of it. He needs to be creative in innovation. At the same time, he needs to possess all these skills of business knowledge and networking. We now would move on to the entrepreneurial mind and action. Entrepreneurs engage in ideation. Ideation is a process of thinking, of idea generation. And idea generation and ideation cannot be though correlated. They can be correlated, but they cannot be used simultaneously. They are not the same terms. Ideation is about creative thinking, about something which entrepreneurs see and others do not. So when you ideate, you think creatively. You think about the solutions that haven't thought before. You think about the resources that you can leverage upon that haven't been leveraged before. You think about the network of people that you can bank upon which haven't been done before. So when you talk about ideation, you talk about creative thinking and act it to prove it as feasible. So it doesn't only limit you to creative thinking, because if it does, then you will be called an innovator and not an entrepreneur. When you are being called or addressed as an entrepreneur, it means that you haven't just thought about it, you haven't just practiced creative thinking, but you have gone an extra mile and you have also created a feasible solution. So there is strong element of creativity in it. Again, the same thing that we discussed is that entrepreneur needs to be creative, plus has also to create a feasible solution that can be scaled. Now, what is creativity? Steve Jobs, one of the most well-known entrepreneurs of all time, observed that creativity is connecting things. When do you ask creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty about it because they didn't really do it. They just saw something. This just saw something is very important. It seemed obvious to them after a while. That's because they were able to connect experiences they have had and synthesize new things. And the reason they were able to do that was that they have had more experiences or they have thought more about their experiences than other people. Like this comes from Wolf 1996 publication. So when we talk about creativity, we took example of one of the great entrepreneurs of all time, and we say that it is able to connect experiences they have had and synthesize new things. Like I was saying in previous session, that entrepreneurship is not just about ideas. Ideas comes to everyone. It's not just about opportunities. People do see opportunity, but do you synthesize what goes in your mind? Do you think about implementing it, or you just stop and leave it? That this opportunity came to my mind, I did not do anything about it, but it came to my mind. You will not be called an entrepreneur, my friend. You have to act upon it. You have to think about it. You have to find a feasible solution to implement that. So creative thinking plus a way to implement that feasibly is what we call entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurial mind and action. Now how all these things flow, we'll see through this process diagram. What is innovation? Innovation would involve thinking about an idea. Suppose, think of an idea right now. You can do that. Like, think of any idea that you would want to work on. If you want to start a mobile repairing shop, or you want to start a new technology firm which caters to different organizations, think about any idea that you would want to do. Now, think about how would you go implementing that idea. How the implementation part would take place. How would you implement that? What all resources do you need? What all people do you need? What all skills do you already have? What all skills do you need to learn? And then you would go to impact, positive results. With idea, you have thought of starting a new venture. With implementation, you have implemented your ideas and put your thoughts into action. With impact, you have observed what are the results. Either they are positive or they are not. In case the impact is not positive, or the entrepreneur do not feel satisfied with the impact or the way of implementation, they engage in subsequent round of ideation. It is not predictable. So ideation may go on and on and on and on and on. So it's not that ideation is a process that has a very set time limit. I start ideating right now, and by the end of it I should be done with everything. It doesn't happen that way. You might need people who are not from your field, who have expertise in different field. You might want to take a cue from what they think is right, isn't it? That's what the big companies does. So if a company is operating in an automobile domain, that company would take a cue or a lesson from an organization who is working in, say, pharmaceutical. Because the innovation part in their organization, if at all got limited, they always have an option to learn from other industry, other organization. That's what we do. So ideation never stops. Ideation keeps on going. So when we talk about entrepreneurship process, we talk about behavioral contexts are important. We say that the organization that you have set up, the context is very important. The context in which the whole organization has been set up is of prime importance. Opportunity recognition is central to venture creation, but the process is important. So you recognize the opportunity. Now I would here mention what social entrepreneur and commercial entrepreneurs do differently. A commercial entrepreneur might see an opportunity in building new laptops that are very efficient and that gives very good speed, handling and all of that. And he would go and create an organization around it. A social entrepreneur, on the other hand, might see that access to education of children from marginalized background is very limited. So he is also seeing an opportunity, but here the opportunity is a problem. So this is the difference between a social entrepreneur and a commercial entrepreneur. Commercial entrepreneur would always see an opportunity as an opportunity. Social entrepreneur will see a problem as an opportunity. So here we would conclude our session on introduction of entrepreneurship and specifically social entrepreneurship.
With this note, we would like to thank Mr. Yogesh Kumar for giving us a deep insight into the topic. And dear friends, we believe that your feedbacks are very, very important for us. So if you have any kind of questions regarding today's lecture, then you can mail us at info.cc@nic.in. We will definitely try to give answers to your questions when next time Mr. Yogesh Kumar visits our studio. And we would be carrying more and more of lectures under social entrepreneurship. And if you want to have a lecture on a particular topic under the series, then also you can write to us, and your feedbacks are most welcome. So do write to us and do watch this lecture, as we are going to upload this lecture on YouTube very soon for you. Keep watching us, keep writing us. We will be meeting again very soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Yogesh Kumar. Thank you so very much.